Today's job market is the most stressful job market of all time, with the constant fear mongering and the feeling of an impending economic recession. Many job seekers are giving up hope. When they see the hurdles that they have to put themselves through via these self-proclaimed gurus on LinkedIn, like you, it leaves a bitter taste in everyone's mouth. However, there is a silver lining to this, a fresh perspective to view this job market and a systematic approach that will give you the best opportunity to land a position in 2025. It's like that one guy who sent a pair of his own shoes to Warren Buffett, Alex Benayan. You have to be able to find a way to get your foot in the door with these companies. Before you send out a pair of old shoes to your potential employer, I just want you to think about this. Imagine you're walking into an interview, you have copies of your resume in a manila folder ready to give to their hiring managers. Walking confident to the building, your chest is out, your shoulders are back, and you stride up to the receptionist. They tell you that the hiring manager will just be a few moments and to take a seat in the waiting area. You sit down and you wait. And you wait a little longer. Then you realize that the minutes are slipping by and you start checking your phone. Did I come too early or did I completely miss it? Is something wrong? You're in your head and you have this anxiety bubbling up within. We'll get back to this analogy a little bit later in the video. Like I said previously, this is the most competitive market of all time, especially with the introduction of LinkedIn. You have to remember that we're also at the peak of the attention economy. So basically whoever is the loudest will get the most attention. And it doesn't help that LinkedIn has basically turned into professionals showcasing their highlight reel. However, there is a lane for those who want to fly under the radar and not submit to those tactics. What if I told you you had to take one step backwards to take two steps forward? What I mean by this is when I was trying to get into the accounting finance field, I had to weigh out my options. I was applying to all these staff accountant, entry-level analyst positions, and I was not getting any response back. I could not even get to the first interview. So I had to check myself and realize that, hey, what do people do in these type of situations? What does the average person do to get an entry-level staff accountant or financial analyst position? Most of the time in this sector, they want you to have some sort of prior experience, and the best way to get that is via an internship. I know a lot of people are taken aback when they hear an older person saying, hey, you should go get an internship. And honestly, I felt the same way. When I walked into orientation, I got self-conscious. I was sitting at the table with 20 and 21-year-olds who were in college or freshly graduated, and me over here with my 9 years of work experience at 27 years old and a full beard is sitting at the same table in the same position. I could have easily let my ego get in the way and be like, hey, you know what? I'm above this. However, I knew that I was here to get work experience. I wasn't here to be popular. I wasn't here to make friends. So I had to basically keep my head down for 8 months and go through that. However, that was the best decision ever. Even though I was a little bit older, the people that I worked with, they could relate to me at a different level. They actually admired the fact that, hey, this guy might be 27, an intern, people do that way earlier on. However, his situation's different and he has that sense of maturity and responsibility that would be a great addition to this team. And honestly, it laid the foundation of everything else that I have learned. I learned how to navigate a corporate environment, especially after working retail, sales, warehousing jobs, manual labor jobs. I finally made it to an office where I can hone in my skills. And basically that was the first step. I'm not saying that you have to go out and become an intern. That's not always the case. There are many people that get staff accountant roles without even having to do that. However, I highly suggest an internship for accounting and finance roles because you will get that experience that can go on your resume, and moving forward when you do eventually take that next transition to the staff accountant, entry-level analyst, you're gonna have that baseline of experience. For example, if you land a T4 internship, a top 4 accounting internship, and you have one of those names on your resume, a public accounting name on your resume, all of these jobs are going to listen to what you have to say. If you want further proof, go on Indeed and look at these accountant positions. They're asking for experience in public accounting. The best way to get experience in public accounting when you don't have your CPA is to go through an internship. And additionally, on top of that, I live in a medium cost of living area. An internship with a T4 firm was paying more than any job I've ever had in my life. So you really have to consider that. Are you going to be focused on just your title, or are you going to get the experience? Are you going to get the proper compensation for your work? And you're going to build that foundation that you can talk about in your interviews that will allow you to transition to a better role. So yes, this can take anywhere from, if you're doing a tax internship, 3 to 4 months, or in my case, I did an 8-month internship, and then I got into a full-time position. So sometimes that's what you have to do. Make sure to look for internships or junior level positions, and don't be afraid to apply to those. Those months of experience in the internship, you're going to see so much, and you're going to understand what people in these roles do, that you'll be able to effectively communicate that in an interview. The next step is to track everything you're doing within your job search. So what I mean by this is make sure you have a working log of all the jobs you applied to, when you applied to them, when you heard back from them, if you got to the first interview, second, final, any data that you can extrapolate from that, I want you to put into a spreadsheet and keep track of it. The reason for this is because you're gonna see patterns within that data that will help you and put you at ease. So for example, I noticed that if I applied to a fresh job posting that was within 1 to 3 days, because I found out that most of the time hiring managers find the core people they want to interview within that little window, the first 3 days, I would put in my application. I would put in my resume that was tailored specifically for the role. So not for the exact position, but tailored for the role, aka accounting intern, finance intern, analyst, staff accountant. I'd have 4 different resumes that I would use to apply to positions. So from the time of me turning in my application and resume, a hiring manager would reach out and have an interview scheduled on my calendar at least 15 days out. So now I know that, hey, there's a certain ebb and flow to the whole interview process. I knew that I wouldn't get any traction for 2 weeks. I'm speaking from experience from 2023 and 2024. I am giving you the tools to do your own analysis so you can prepare. Back to my example with the interview, would you just sit and wait for the hiring manager all day if they never came out? Would you ask the receptionist a million questions? Or would you go and move on and keep your day going and apply to other positions or make it to your next interview? A lot of times I realize that people just apply and they sit and wait for a response. That's not the name of the game anymore. You want to be juggling multiple interviews at the same time, because that gives you 2 things. It gives you momentum and it gives you leverage. So when you're going through multiple interviews, you don't want to be able to have to start that 15-day process over. So let's say, for example, I put in 1 job application and I've got 1 interview and I'm waiting to see that all the way through. Let's say they don't choose me. There was someone that had more qualifications than me. Where am I at that point? Am I just going to have to start applying and then waiting another 15 days and then just keep on going through that cycle? Or am I every day going to systematically apply to job positions that I qualify for, or I have experience in lieu of that qualification that I know I have a good chance of getting? If I'm waiting 15 days and sending 10 applications a day, and every 10 applications I get 1 interview, I am increasing my odds 15x. Why wouldn't you do that? Why would you just wait for 1 job to reject you or accept you? Keep it pushing, keep up the momentum, because energy in motion stays in motion. You'll eventually will find something. However, if you keep getting down on yourself, going in Reddit forums and posting negative things and basically going through this echo chamber of, hey, you can't get jobs, what's going to happen? Because I have to ask you a serious question. I've known people that have degrees more prestigious than mine, and they're never got any type of entry-level role. They failed to go out and actually apply for that internship or apply for that junior position because they thought they were above it. And now they're in a position, they work in a job they don't like and they have a degree they don't use. what's the point of that? You want to be able to give yourself the best chance of success. This is beyond just getting a job to pay for your bills. Like, you want to take care of your family, you want to enter a career. This isn't just a manual labor job that you can go apply to another one and get a job within 3 days. Like, it sucks. There's a song and dance. It's definitely a different environment, but you need to keep these things in mind and keep the momentum up. And that's the thing that the people on LinkedIn will never tell you. They're just going to be like, oh, invite them out for a virtual coffee, XYZ. But you need to find a way. You need to make a third door. For example, Alex Benayan, he wanted to get that interview with Warren Buffett, and he went as far as sending his old pair of shoes over to him. I'm not saying to send your pair of shoes to an employer or potential employer, because that's just straight up nasty. However, he was trying to find the third door just because he wanted to interview him. In the story, he figured out that Warren Buffett does this annual conference. In the annual conference, they open up the floor for questions. And he realized that if he got a few of his buddies, wrote down all his questions, he would able to get the knowledge that he wanted from the interview that Warren kept shutting down. He was able to get that from him from a public stage. So he was willing to go a roundabout way to get the solution he wanted. So let's think about roundabout ways. I just want to encourage you guys to think outside of the box and figure out ways that you are able to position yourself in a way to get into these roles. I know how it is. I probably applied to thousands of jobs and I never got responses back. However, you need to find a way to position yourself in a way that is different and a way that you can communicate your experience that is applicable to these jobs. On top of that, you can't feed into these negative echo chambers. I know it's easy to go on public forums and just talk about how this job market's horrible and you can't find anything. I get it. Everybody knows the job market is horrible. Everybody knows things aren't as good as it used to be a few years ago, but you need to keep positive because you need to take care of yourself first. And if that means you have to get an internship, if that means you have to take a junior level role before you transition to that full-time role, so be it. If you're just thinking about getting the money and not getting experience, that will mess you up in the long run. For example, if you have a position that's paying you $60K from a startup, or you have a position that's paying you $52 as an internship, you're obviously going to want to take the $60K startup, but who knows what could happen. That startup could be really hectic. It can be really chaotic and you're out the door in 6 weeks. I've seen it happen. I have had that happen to friends that are really close to me. They have joined a startup. They were getting paid a lot more. However, since things were so chaotic and they wanted them to do everything, they got mad that they couldn't keep up with the demand that they wanted and they let them go. Or you could have taken the $52K role, the internship, and you could have gotten valuable work experience. What I recommend is to sharpen your skills on the interview process as a whole. Reach out to someone that knows how to write a resume, whether it's a career center, someone you pay, or just learn by yourself. Additionally, I want you to learn how to interview. It is a very essential skill. I know a lot of people already think they know how to interview. However, there's a lot of nuance that is overlooked within the interview process that is really sandbagging your process. You should go through and practice on a regular basis with friends and family your interview questions so you can say them while you're in your sleep. You need to be able to communicate your experience confidently. So if you have that 8 months of internship experience like me, I want you to be able to talk about it. I want you to be able to sit down with a hiring manager, walk them through your first job to your current position at that internship and tell them how you got there. You need to be able to walk people through your resume in a way that makes sense to them. The audience isn't for yourself. The resume is for other people. People seem to forget that. Additionally, you need to be able to convey your personality through the interview. You have to remember, this is someone you're going to be working with 40 hours a week. You want to be able to tell people that you are a personable person and you're easy to work with. You're willing to learn and you can take feedback and you can adapt. You want to be able to convey these type of things within your interview. If you need help with the interview, I have a video right here that talks about some common interview questions and goes more in depth about the nuances of how to interview and how to get a position. I understand at my peak of applying, I was sending out 25 applications a day and I tracked it all. On top of that, I want you to remember that if you see a job posting on LinkedIn, you want to get in within the first 1 to 3 days, because I know we all seen it. 100+ people applied. You want to get in before it gets to that point, because the hiring manager, like it or not, they've already chosen their pool of applicants within the first week. But my best practice is to say within the first 1 to 3 days. And if you see that really high number on LinkedIn, still apply. You don't know if those people are just clicking on whatever, because honestly, if you think about it, if you're not getting a job, a lot of people aren't getting a job. People are just mass applying. They're just pressing the easy apply button on LinkedIn, which is not the right thing to do. And don't just press the easy apply. It is better to actually go through and submit the application through the portal. Another thing about the high number, the 99+ applicants or over 100 applicants on LinkedIn, if it's usually over a month, they're already probably in their second or third round of application. And a lot of the time with these companies, they require the job posting to be open for a certain period of time. I'm not saying that you can't get a job if you apply to a position that is 7 days old. However, it's best to get it within the first day, if not the first 3 days. And it basically diminishes from there. Your chances of actually getting an interview diminishes the further out from the time of posting. And that applies to Indeed, and that applies to Handshake and any other job board as well. I'm just saying LinkedIn because that is the most common and known platform. I want you to have these core resumes so you can use them interchangeably. You shouldn't just be sending a general resume out that doesn't have some sort of summary saying, I'm looking for a staff accountant role, or I'm looking for a financial analyst role. You want to be specific even in your resume. Yes, it's that important, because you need to understand if you're not getting to the interview process, you have to look at the whole timeline. So here's the beginning, here's the interview process, something's going wrong in this point. And most of the time, it's the point of resume. That's really the only thing you can control, how good your resume stands out. And I'm not going to get into ATS systems or anything like that. You need to have quantitative and qualitative data on your resume showing that you have some sort of experience that can transfer over to the current position. A little tidbit is you should know what type of roles you are going for within the industry. So make sure you know the little nuances. Instead of applying to all these staff accountant roles, why don't you look at accounts payable roles or bookkeeping roles, or something that got you working with some sort of accounting thing that you can step into. Like when I was applying, I was even applying to accounting clerk positions, internship positions, junior accountant positions, AP positions, bookkeeper positions, anything to get my foot in the door. You have to understand, yes, you have to take that step back to go forward. A lot of these hiring managers or people that you're gonna be working with, they don't have the most time to work with you and train you up. So the best way to get into that position in the future is to take one that you might have not thought of, you might have overlooked. Look into those bookkeeping roles, look into those accounting clerk roles where you can learn the fundamental and they're willing to teach you the fundamentals. Finding a job in this market is extremely difficult, but it is not impossible. I am walking proof of this. I've gotten a position without completing my degree. You want to learn how to ace your interviews? Check out this video here. If you want to see how I did it and got a job in college, check out this video here. Many times people are sandbagging their own process because they're getting caught up in the noise. Yes, there were stretches of times where I didn't know if I would ever get a job. My friend and I both met up on the 4th of July last year, and we were going through the same situation. Neither of us gotten jobs after months of applying, and we already had the internship, we already had other finance roles, and we still weren't getting any bites. The following month, I got 3 job offers after applying to 300+ roles. Yes, 300. My friend, he was working a contractor role, so he had a little more runway, and he held off for 6 months until he found his dream role and got a 15K increase that's completely remote. Alex Benayan taught me in the book, The Third Door, that you need to keep your mind open to any possibilities and figure out a different way. If everyone's trying one way, go the other way. You don't want to follow the crowd. You have to find a way that works for you. You have to find the opportunity, even if that means you have to get an internship, a junior position, a position that people overlook like bookkeeping, accounts payable, accounting clerk, anything to get that real life work experience so you can spin it in a way that you can get your foot in the door with these hiring managers. And then when you're at that point, you've been practicing your interview skills, you've been refining your resume, viewing it as a living document, you're able to communicate with confidence that, hey, I'm the right person for this role. I have the experience. I have everything down packed and I'm prepared.